it's wearying to address this because, and it gets harder sometimes, I guess, because I've addressed it many, many times before and never does any good. But the way that people developed alongside of me when I was a teenager in high school, we're in a different neighborhood after we moved to get away from things that I didn't know had happened. So they like to say, why didn't you tell us that these things had happened? You see, and there's two answers to that. One of the answers is the answer, and the other answer is the forces that hotwire around that answer as though it's not possible or doesn't exist. The answer is that a neurological injury had locked shut the memory of severe trauma. And the person who did it is in neurobehavioral research at the University of Pittsburgh. They're an expert, which means I had traumatic amnesia. I was very young and pre-lingual when it happened. I couldn't access the memories, you see, so I would get tasered internally if I tried to read letters. They say, why didn't you read the letters? I would get tasered internally. If I tried to focus on them, I would get tasered. And I was just a child, and there was enough superficially about the letters to look like a child just writing me, teases about love and stuff, that I just put them in a drawer. I didn't suspect them of containing things that need to be studied. And I didn't know that what had happened had been as severe as it was until many years later I went into seizures in Iowa. My eyes were at ocular gyrations, counter dilations, and terrible suffering. And then I remembered hiding in extreme cold in Pennsylvania to try to escape a gang that found me anyway and kidnapped me and gassed me. And this is something that I started to try to discuss as a medical library clerk when Amnesty International was in vogue. But you see, Amnesty International was a double agency. They were made up of celebrities. Torture had entered my vocabulary through readings about Amnesty International, and I had been tortured, and I still am being. But it was a double agency that was calling itself Poker Alchemy. In other words, it was this little syndicate, a little clique of celebrities who decided whether you get victim status or not, and they ordained that idea. So Pittsburgh mongered that if I didn't tell anybody until I could talk to celebrities, it means I was making it up to be famous. And of course, that has a selling point for them because they can get the ear of somebody, oh, he's an asshole, is what they said about me. And what I didn't know at the time was that Genesis had this character who was working with Pittsburgh on a Caligula snuff film. And they all are invested in Warhol. They know how it's going to end. It's written to kill me, murder me. They've already murdered people to make sales on it. So they have a Caligula snuff film. Genesis is endorsed. And in that reading, it never happened until I wanted to become famous. But you see, if I wanted to become famous, there were other ways I could have gone about it. I was just being philosophical most of my time. because I was deaf and I took myself seriously. I did a lot of reading about history. People saw me as sort of a funny puppet show. Look at the intellectual who's weak and silly. And, we think he's evil because he doesn't kowtow to Jesus freaks or believe in the Vietnam War, and we can get him to high. So, and he never said anything about it. He never complained before. These must have been people. Well, I tried. I had alexithymia, which is a rare condition. I learned about it through John Schulman's bookstore, a book called Shaviti. It's when you can start to see what happened, but you can't express it because, as Schulman's friend Vicari put it, the tongue cannot handle the horror. He came to a Holocaust film with me, and he intoned these things in a review that we both wrote. But it was a metaphor for what was going on in me psychologically that Schulman obviously knew about. So the tongue cannot handle the horror, and I sent these cartoons to Tim Menes at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, sniffing queer bait and stuff. And they were licky chops. We can make money off of these. And they sent out Tony Norman to say, let's get all the dirt on this queer ball. And they had, a girl who pushed herself on me from the NAACP. And of course she was, I was an abused woman. But I had nothing to do with any kind of abuse to this woman. She was pushing herself on me. I offered to help her. If she pointed at me and said, he abused me, it's because all the other guys told her, say something about him, because he's the one who we planted the script on. Because all I wanted to do was try to help her. And one of Warhol's friends and her concierge, the woman who took care of her, used to come over to my house for Christmas. I never heard a word about me having abused her from any of these people. But she drove up with this concierge after I had gotten brutally, my brains kicked in with slaughtering blows, totally unprovoked by a total stranger. They looked me over and drove off. They were supposed to be taking care of me. My mother was out of town. This is the reality. So there was a little gangster group, Martin Andelman, Thomas Gordon, and Leslie Katz, who all were friends in childhood, grew up together, who set up this storyline, preying on the neuroplasm. They put out a little drama spin control story that Ming-Na Wen picked up and hot-wired on. The partner of Schulman, Leslie Katz, was Ellis School. The other person who was arrested with Schulman was from Ellis. They were telling this story. I just respected her. That's all. I just respected her virginity and let it go. They were telling this story about, oh, no, she wanted, no, don't stop, don't. And Thos Gordon was like, yeah, you know what to do with a girl like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Would somebody get after these people and find out what's really going on? And so Trumpy Toon and Pat Buchanan come in and they're like, lo and behold this, lo and behold that. Nobody came and said, what's in these letters? They left that for me to have a royal shock on behalf of the person who wrote them. And, these people have, while you were laughing at their jokes, they set up our grannies. So, and they have, me and Living in Terror. The person I love is, one of them is, they've just go after people who are close to me, who I like. One by one, they're monsters. They're Caligula snuff film monsters. And they, I went to the police. They have something called experimental disease control. And the police were, ho, 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 ho. What's so funny about it? And they poison me in the mouth. What's so funny about that? Doesn't make any sense. They're saying, oh, you're trying to cash in on, your own work. That's a no-no. I don't, it's sort of difficult to explain, how the mind of these people operate. I've tried to discuss the fact that you can't reason with them. They just laugh. John Stockwell used to say that when somebody's being tortured, they always reach out to the person who's torturing them as if they're dealing with somebody who's human, who can be reached. And that's what gave him his jollies, was watching them try to reason with the people who were brutalizing. And that's the situation.